Call this meeting to order. If you'll stand and pledge allegiance to the flag with us. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I'd like to invite Mr. Mike McDonald up to give our invocation, please.
Let us pray. Father God, we come before you now to give you praise and to give you thanksgiving. We thank you for this beautiful countryside in which we live. We thank you for our town. And Father, we lift up our town leaders, that you will bless them and guide them, that you will help them lead us to be the kind of community that you would have us to be. A land of justice, a land of compassion, that you will lead them to consider what is best for all and not the one, to remember the weak, the poor, and the neglected, and to make us a community of unity without uniformity. And we ask this in your holy name. Amen. Amen.
The only announcements that I have right now is to let you know that Carlos is not with us. His wife had fallen in the shower Saturday morning. She got some broke ribs and a deflated lung on one side. And if y'all will be thinking about and praying for her. We have no proclamation and awards. We do have citizen comments. First one on the list is Mr. Doug Brock. If you'll give your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Doug Brock, and my family and I have lived at 296 Old Lakey Gap Road for 33 years. Newly elected mayor and the board of aldermen. All of us in Black Mountain residents are witnessing the fast-paced plan for development in Black Mountain. Soon our town will go from being a town to becoming a city. Anyone who looks at the proposed developments and the recently approved ones will recognize that likelihood. Almost all the recent high-density residential developments in Black Mountain have been on what was formerly pasture. Tudor Croft was formerly Robert's Horse Farm. The Sweet Birch duplexes on Blue Ridge Road were, until recently, grazing for horses. 9 South was pasture, along with Jacob's Cottages. The upcoming 10-acre project on Avena Road was a vegetable garden and a former horse pasture. It will soon be a 60-unit plus high-density development. When the Avena Road property first came on the market for sale, a prospective buyer investigated the property for her home and her horses. When she inquired about the zoning with the planning department staff, she learned horses were not allowed. Many folks are not aware that the state has recently passed a farming bill that recognizes the value of agro-tourism. The legislation is a sincere attempt to help preserve farmland and prevent land use ordinances from prohibiting the use of land for agriculture. It is past time that Black Mountain do the same. To quote dairy farmer Bradley Johnson, once that land is sold, that green space won't be there. The green space that people like to see around us, that they want to preserve and keep, is almost all owned by agriculture. There are many environmentally positive reasons for green space and helping absorb storm water and provide habitat for wild creatures. There are few economic agricultural land uses that can compete with the high dollar values of land development. Yet one of these uses that can compete is a horse enthusiast's willingness to pay the high cost of land. This ordinance change will be a small step to allowing agriculture to compete with developers for the little amount of flat land remaining in our narrow part of our valley. The property rights supporters should also support this amendment, for it does not prevent the owner from selling his property to a developer.
Thank you. 3 minutes, buddy.
Hope y'all have the wisdom.
Our next citizen comments from Ms. Julie White.
Julie White, 205 9th Street. I'm here just to speak briefly about the meeting that happened here Friday with the Design Center, looking at plans for Veterans Park. I know that this is an important decision that's ahead of us. I understand that there's a strong need for better daycare and longer and bigger facilities in this area. And I know that there's a lot of people that think that the Veteran Park site would be a great place for it. We have an opportunity here, though, to really let the Design Center do their work and let us know what they think about it. They are an unbiased group. They've got some really exciting planners and knowledgeable people that can help us make an informed decision about this piece of land. So I was really pleased with that. There were a couple of things that concerned me about the meeting Friday. First of all, John DeWitt said that he had been meeting with Land of Sky about what should happen at the interchange and how that should be configured to help the daycare center. That bothered me on 2 levels. A, I don't think citizens should be going to places like Land of Sky to make decisions about this town. And B, we don't know if that's going to happen yet, so I think that's putting the cart before the horse. Then after the meeting, he said to me, well, you know, they're going to move the fire department over to the foam and fabric property, which I was like, well, no. Actually, I didn't know that. So, of course, I went and I asked Matt, is this happening? And Matt was like, you know, there's been no decision made, and we don't even own the land. So then I'm going, well, why did this happen? And what I'm afraid is happening is there's behind-the-scenes bargaining or politicking or whatever going on to try to sway and get that daycare there. And that may be the decision that the Design Center comes up with. But I would really, if this keeps going on, I think that process could be undermined and the trust that people have in the process could be undermined. So I'm just asking everybody in town, citizens, staff, elected officials, just take a deep breath, step back, and let the Design Center do their work, because I think they can do a good job. Thank you. And this is my opinion only, not any group I belong to. Thank you.
Thank you. Communications from the boards, commissions, and agencies. First one will be the fire department by Steve Jones.
Mayor, Board, I appreciate you letting me take a minute to talk to you about what happened last year at the fire department. Last year was another busy year. We had 1,525 calls in the city, 887 in the rural district, for a total of 2,412 calls. That's up about 7.5% from last year, with about 63% of our calls being inside the city limits. The largest number of calls we run is about 58% of those are rescue and EMS calls. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people that are here, and a lot of people get sick, they get stuck in elevators in the conference centers, so that's about 58% of our calls. If you look at the budget and the response, the average is out to about $708 a call every time we go out the door. That's about what it costs us. Our exposures, we had a total of $3,719,955 worth of exposures exposed to fire last year. That's considerably down from the year before, but if you look at the year before, we had a fire in a big conference center, so that drove that number way up higher, and that's what the big difference is this year. Our property loss was $497,000. That's a little bit above our 10% goal. We like to keep it under, but due to aging buildings and new construction, fires are burning faster and hotter. Probably 20 years ago, if your house caught on fire, you had about 17 minutes to get your stuff and get out of the house. Today, that's 3 minutes is what you get from the time it starts till you got to get out of the house. So that's considerably quicker, but it is, again, it's due to aging buildings and new lightweight construction. Our inspections, we had a total of 527 inspections. Again, last year in 2016, we had way more, but when we do inspections, some of those inspections roll around on a 3-year cycle, and that's when one of those cycles were, so that's why it was way up. A new change to the code, and we're anticipating a rise from anywhere from 500 to 1,000 inspections because of the residential rental inspections that we're going to start doing. The code basically requires that we inspect all rental property, residential rental property, to make sure they have the proper CO detector in them. Of course, if we're going to have to go to these homes and do this, we'll also do smoke detectors and fire extinguishers as well. But we are expecting that to go up, our inspections to go up because of the change in the code.
Is that change effective January 1, 18?
I believe it was, yes. Luckily Dan's sitting out there, so he knows about it. So anyway, yeah, this year. I know one of the realtors, I won't mention of them, but they're already complying. I know that. So hopefully it won't be something that we got to go into and tell people that need to do this. Most of the rental groups already know this is here, so they're already in place. Hours of service, they're down a little bit from last year, and to be honest with you, people are more busy. They got things going on, and we have a lot less people volunteering and coming back and giving their time. So I look for that number to continue to drop. Multiple calls, we're down a little bit. We're still average about, I think it's about 60 a month. But that can be anywhere from one call to today we had 4 calls at the same time. And just luckily, one of those calls we got canceled on, so we rerouted somebody else to the other one, or we would have been out of people. We would have been depleted, and we would have had to reach out to another department. When we have fires and such, we don't have that option because those people are already coming to us, mutual aid. So anyway, that is beginning to be a pretty big burden on the fire department. I found this picture when I was going through some stuff, and I can't tell you what your model truck this is. I can tell you Sterling Poe is sitting on the top of it. He joined in 1966, and I came in 1980, so I can tell you it's somewhere between there. But I'll show you this picture leading into what the fire trucks used to look like. This is basically a commercial cab fire truck. Back when this truck was bought, it was mainly volunteer and one paid staff. So it wasn't made to haul the 3 or 4 that we're required to haul now to a fire. And if that truck rolls over, pretty much everyone who's sitting in the cab of it's going to die, because it's not a custom truck, so it's not rated, crash rated like the custom trucks we run today. Let's hope so. This is the arrival of your new engine you bought last year that you paid cash for. This is them bringing it to us. I wanted to play that video because you heard a little bit of that siren. If we really lay on that siren and crank it up, every coyote in this valley is going to start screaming. But it is the major siren that the NFPA recommends to get somebody's attention as we're going down the road. So this is the only truck we have that has that siren on it. And I didn't know that we'd ever had one before, but the old truck that I showed you before, it had one on it too. So, but it's, I think the city runs them on all their engines, Gulfy Weston. So, if you've ever been to the city of Asheville, you've heard that sound, and now you're going to hear it in Black Mountain. So, and there it is. That's a custom cab pumper. It pumps 2,000 gallons a minute. It has 750 gallons of water on it. We've already put it to good use. It works fine. Everybody, all the guys like it, and everybody that's seen it made good comments about it. And I just want to thank you guys for getting us this truck and paying cash for it, so I don't have to worry 5 years down the road where I'm going to get Matt and Dean to give me another truck payment. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Some things we've done throughout the year. We attend this 911 Sunday service every year at Trinity Baptist Church because we recognize fallen firefighters and emergency responders throughout the county, not just line of duty, but if they're retired and they've passed. And this year we recognized Bob Whelan, and if any of you remember Bob, he was a big political guy, and he ran around town, and he was big in politics, but he moved to Florida. You know, he passed, and then retired Fire Chief Tim Rayburn. FEMA grants, we applied for 2 FEMA grants last year. We applied for this prevention and safety grant. We wanted to buy our own fire safety house to take to the children and to use to teach the young children what to do in case of a fire. The county has one that we borrow from time to time, but we wanted our own because we feel like that we could really use it, because we always have people coming by the station with their children, and it's a great tool to teach the young children. But we got denied for that one. And then the big one was that we wanted to purchase some personal protective equipment and turnout gear. They put constraints on us now. Those are limited to 10 years life. After 10 years old, you're supposed to take them out of service and get new gear. And we've applied for this one twice and got turned down, so it doesn't look good. The other part of that is a commercial washer and dryer. Right now what we have is what you have in your house, and it just don't work. Firemen, I don't know if any of you have seen the article about the city of Asheville and their firefighters and cancer. They are tracing those cancers back to the carcinogens, which all they are is cancer-causing agents that get on our bodies as firefighters and responders, and they cause cancer. They cause melanoma, they cause kidney cancer, bladder cancer, testicular cancer, and they've actually passed, I don't know what bill it is, I got it in here, that now that we can use cancer as a line of duty death in firefighters, so we can get some benefits that way. So all this equipment is to protect our people from getting cancer as best we can. We're not going to stop it all. We run into bad situations. That's just what we do for a living. We accept that, but we want to try to improve on the way we do that with our firefighters. Our Volunteer Firefighters Association, they do fundraisers online. You can buy stuff at the station. We sell coffee. It's the best coffee in town, hands down. It's called the First Alarm Coffee, and we sell T-shirts, signs, and we even sell Future Firefighter T-shirts. You can go online to our website and or theirs directly, bmvfire.org, and order that stuff and buy it. All the money that they raise, they spend at the fire department. Last year, I don't know if any of you guys have been up and down Montreat Road. You see the front of our building, there's a new rock garden there. There's a new sign on the building with our new patch. There's lights in the museum bay that lights up the old fire truck. So they took in $8,000 last year, and they spent about $8,000 this year doing that for us. So what they raise comes back to the town. They've helped buy pagers, they've helped buy radios, and several things. So if you get a chance, visit it, and if you like coffee, I suggest you get the coffee. We go to the Veterans Home every year. We went to the Veterans Home last year for a health fair. Of course, we didn't do any blood pressure checks or anything, but we do a lot of home safety education for the people down there. The Black Mountain Christmas Parade, there's the Grinch driving the new truck. We do that every year, but what a lot of people don't know about when we do the parade, it's more than just going out and doing a parade. We have to provide service to the north, south, east, and west of the district. So we have to station people in all those areas to respond in case we have a call. I don't know if a couple of years ago y'all remember, y'all were probably not there yet, but we had to break through the middle of town to go on a call, and that's pretty hard to do when the parade's in full swing. So it's a big chore to get the parade done and get everybody safe. I go, myself and the deputy chief go to North Carolina Legislative Day every year with the North Carolina Firefighters Association. We go up there and we talk to our legislators and tell them, what's important to us, and try to get them on board. Some things we win, some things we don't. A couple of things this year, like I talked before, House Bill 355 was the firefighter death benefit with cancer, so we got that done. And then there was a House Bill 340 that would allow firefighters to get the same separation pay that police officers get. That one didn't go so well. So it's in the short session, or it's probably all over. It's probably not going to go anywhere. So, but that's what we do. We go there and talk to everybody, and it's a good day, and they seem very pleased to see us sometimes. Most of you were at our banquet last year. Sterling Poe is a retired paid fireman from the town of Black Mountain, and also he's a volunteer. And last year he got his 50 years service, plus he was firefighter of the year from the Rotary Club. So that was a big year for Sterling. He is one of the biggest supporters of this town, the fire department, and y'all. So I was very excited to see him get this. And this is based on him responding to calls and training hours. This is not I pick who gets it. This is strictly on how they perform, and he did perform very well last year. And then we participated in the town hall day, thanks to Angela. That went very well too. We always love talking to children, because that's who goes home and tells the mommies and the daddies what needs to happen when an emergency. So that went very well for us. Our firefighters are gone a lot. They miss a lot. So every year we do a kids' Christmas party for just our firefighters' children. This is the time that they get to come into the firehouse, and they get to run up and down the hallways and act like kids, and then they get to see Santa Claus, and we get them some gifts, and they seem to really enjoy it. So that's just one little thing we can do for our firefighter children. Safety Saturday is a big deal. We partner with the police department and other public or first responder agencies, and we put this on over at Ingalls. We have a mock wreck, and it's based on texting and driving, why you shouldn't do it. So the public can come watch what we do and see how we respond, and they can see a lot of really neat equipment. So that's pretty good. This year, Safety Saturday will be May the 19th from 10 to 2. This year we'll have a car seat safety station from Safe Kids of Western North Carolina. So if you know anybody that's got a car seat in their car and they want to get it checked or get one put in, all they got to do is come between 10 and 1 on that day, and they'll be professionally installed in their vehicle. Also, the local government federal credit union will bring the shred truck back. I'm sorry, it'll be 10 to 1. The shred truck will be there, so if you know anybody that's got any stuff needs to be shredded, tell them to bring it on out. Halloween on Church Street is always a big deal. This is probably our second biggest PR as far as getting out and with our children and letting them see us and answering questions. We handed out over 1,500 pieces of candy, and it's hard to hand out one piece of candy at a time to a kid, but when it's 1,500 pieces, it's a lot of candy. Fire prevention in the schools. We spend the whole week out here in the elementary or primary school field with the primary and elementary school just doing stuff like stop, drop, and roll. We let them spray water, all kinds of stuff. So we spend the whole week out there for that if the weather permits. And that's another reason we wanted a fire safety house, because we don't always have it for there. We participate in Deck the Trees at the Monte Vista. All this money raised from this goes to the Christian ministry for heating assistance in the community. For 2 years in a row, the fire department's Christmas tree has won this event. We don't know how much money we actually raise, but the total money raised from the trees is over $25,000 to go to heating assistance in this valley. That's big. My deputy chief's wife, Jennifer Wilson, is the mastermind behind decorating the tree, so she gets a lot of credit for that. And then everybody knows about Open House. This is our #1 event that brings in the public. Fire truck rides are always the big thing, and then the Sparky the dog slide that we rented last year and the year before is also a big one. So we look forward to seeing everybody in October. We participate in the walk to school day with the police department to make sure all the kids get from the First Baptist Church to the school all right. And they seem to enjoy that as well. And then we do, they have a field day at the end of the school, and you can see what we do there. We take a fire truck out there and we set the deck gun up and we spray water so the kids can run through it and they can have a ball. Have a fun day. Station tours, we probably average about one of these a week. We always have somebody coming up and saying, I've got some kids that I keep, would you mind doing a tour? Or a Montessori school or some of those. So we do a lot of station tours. Other than that, that's all I have. If you guys got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And if not, we'll hope to have another good year. Thank you, guys.
And now Miss Erica Anderson will give us an economic development update.
Good evening. You know why I seem to always follow the chief whenever I come out here, and it's a hard act to follow. So you all do a lot of great work. It's nice to hear about. Well, thanks for having me tonight. I think Matt and Mr. Harris asked me to come out and talk about the progress on Nevada and the water sewer infrastructure that's happening out there, or will be happening out there. You all have a copy of a brief I put together, and basically this just talks about the engineering work that will happen. And for folks that don't have a copy, this is water sewer extension going out to the south side of I-40 interstate. So the connection will be happening near the Ingalls warehouse. The sewer will be taken across the fields under the interstate across the Swannanoa River, and to provide some access for where the Avadum Technologies manufacturing plant will be over there. Water will be the same, kind of following the right-of-way access on the roads. So that's the non-engineering specifics on it. Overall, it's a $1.65 million project. The town has been awarded $827,580 from the U.S. Department of Economic Development, and that's with U.S. Commerce, and $775,000 from the Golden Leaf Foundation from the state, and there's $52,580 of local fund, not Town of Black Mountains fund. That's from the Commerce Park, so that makes up the total project. Right now, both the awards have been made. EDA award was finally made in early December, on December 1st. So that will allow us to continue moving the whole project forward. The town has signed all the contract documents. We've submitted everything back. We had the project kickoff with EDA on January 2nd. So we kind of hit the new year off with that. And the timeline has been submitted. And now we're completing the site certification documentation with the town, the county, and all the engineering certifications. So once those are submitted, then the project will go to bid. After that's approved by EDA, EDA wants to approve and see everything prior to it being let. So that's the point we're at now, is them to get the site certification documents reviewed. I think Mr. Sneed is working on that as well. And then we'll submit everything in and go to the bid stage. It's a very brief overview.
You know, Erica, might be helpful for the public and for the rest of us too, to have a little bit of an idea about the time frame. You're soon after the certification process is over. The engineer on the project, which is Jesse Gardner,
That's right.
his firm, they will let contracts.
Yes.
Well, they'll send out an RFP.
That's right.
And then when they get responses, they'll award contracts. And so generally, the time frame that we're looking at, of course, it all depends, a week or two here or there, but generally looking at the contracts being let and work starting in perhaps April or so. That's a possible kind of start date for construction, isn't it?
It is.
And so that would be for the water and sewer infrastructure. And then the only thing I would add for the public to be aware of is that NCDOT will start work on the access road at about the same time, about the same period of time. And that project is already funded through NCDOT and so forth, and they're kind of ready to roll, but they too have to wait. This is not dependent on their work, but they're about on the same time frame as far as letting contracts, aren't they, Erica?
They are.
So that would be construction, both the water and sewer infrastructure and the access road by NCDOT, generally speaking, April, and the work for the water and sewer infrastructure, 8 to 9 months.
I think so. I think we're looking at the end of the calendar year for obviously there's
If all goes well.
if all goes well, there's a lot you can see on here. There's a lot of reporting that have to come back to them. But that is the goal, is to have it done by the end of the calendar year.
So that's the water and sewer, but the access road, I think I understood NCDOT to say that was roughly a 3-month project for them. Is that what you recall?
It is.
Yeah.
I think they're aiming to complete the road by this fall,
Right.
or
Yeah.
2018.
Right.
It might take us a little bit longer with the water sewer part, so we're looking more January.
And the only other thing I would add that, just as a matter of information, is the incredible amount of work that Erica Anderson does. Erica is economic and community development person at Landiscar Regional Council. So she's got the region to look after, but I don't know what she could do in addition to all the work she's done for us in the past year. And she actually is is a term administrator of the grant.
Yes.
And so it's just an incredible amount of reporting. It's an incredible amount of work she's done. We're eternally grateful for her. Unless it was someone with her skill to do the grant and process it and manage it, it is a unique skill and unique job that she has, and we owe a lot of gratitude to her. So thank you for all your work, Eric.
Well, thank you. It's a great team to work with, so appreciate it.
Eric, if you don't mind, just to remind the public and people that may watch this on video, Avadim is a corporation. They're going to employ 551 jobs in the area. Remind everybody again what Avadim does. They're kind of a biotech.
They're biotech.
Yes.
They make a variety of different products, but a lot of the products they're making are non-chemical, so a some organics and different processes that they have for fighting infection. So a lot of skin protection. I think the Department of Defense is a major contract for them. They do a lot of military work. They do some work overseas with developing nations as well with some different solutions, but they're kind of an up-and-coming company here in the States.
And they're local to they're local to Asheville, and then and now they're expanding out. But they are local to Buncombe County, and we're fortunate that they chose to stay here.
Yeah.
Well, now, and along with the rest of the project, both the county and the state are providing economic incentives.
That's correct.
If the jobs, it's based on the jobs, where the jobs occur, and they are going gangbusters. It's an incredibly, just they're as busy as they can be. The state, like 7 million-ish or something. Does that ring a bell?
I think that's right. I don't have the exact numbers with me, but I think the county was, I want to say around 800,000 or so, and the state was about 7 million.
Yeah.
And this is the company. Part of that agreement was that they contribute or invest about 25 million to build the facility and all of those. So it's and all of these grants are job dependent. So it's they're required to have the 550 jobs and at a above $45,000 average salary. So they have a fairly high commitment as well for the funding that they're receiving.
These are 500 new jobs, and they're operating already in about 100,000 square feet of production space.
Right down the road here, I believe.
So it's not like they're not operating. They're operating at a high capacity, but these are 500 additional new jobs. So it's, and I just wanted to mention the state and the county involvement on the economic incentive side. There's just a lot of interest and energy in the in the project and in the business, and Black Mountain's very fortunate to be the recipient of this good good news.
Nice to have some local jobs. That's right.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Matt, if you'll explain the agenda items for us.
Yes, sir. You've got the adoption of minutes from your January 4th agenda session and your January 8th regular session. You've got a proposal to award a contract to audit the accounts of the town of Black Mountain for the upcoming fiscal year, 16 to June 30, 2017, with Gould Killian in the amount of $25,400. You've got a budget amendment to purchase police equipment. This comes from the restricted ABC, or the alcohol beverage control funding that's restricted for the police department and only used for them. This is to give them some additional equipment in light of some active shooter training and some issues that they want to be prepared for. So this is ballistic vests and some things that go equipment for those purposes. We budgeted $12,000 this year for those funds. This is an amendment to appropriate another $13,000 out of the ABC restricted funds for those purchases. You've got a resolution of support for Children and Friends to request grant funding so they can file an application with the credit union for a grant. You remember we did a memorandum of understanding in, I believe, November. Is that right? In November of last year. So, this resolution basically puts some of that language into a formal context so that they can apply for the grant for their purposes. This is for the proposed daycare site at Veterans Park that has been mentioned, and that's what this resolution supports. It doesn't commit the town to any funding. It basically lays out in a resolution format what the memorandum of understanding already laid out earlier. And then you have a text amendment to the minutes from the August 8th, 2016 Board of Aldermen regular session. If you'll recall, there had been some debate about the sanitation contract and the language that came out of that meeting. So this motion says that the Black Mountain Board of Aldermen acknowledge and ratify the current contract as negotiated by the town manager pursuant to the Board of Aldermen authorization and believe it accurately reflects the discussion from the August 8, 2016 Board of Aldermen meeting and is consistent with Alderman Harris's motion. So that would be will amend the minutes from that meeting and be reflected again in this, and the minutes obviously from this meeting too. And those are the items that you have on your consent agenda.
Do I have a motion to approve consent items A through E as presented?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved 4-0. I don't have anyone signed up for citizen comments on the new business or an unfinished business. We have none. New business, the capital project ordinance amendment. Matt, if you will explain
Let me give you
and
a
give us a
brief
history of
update on
this.
that. Yes. So we have a capital project set up for the watershed restoration project, which is making improvements to stormwater in town and to improve the water quality of the Swananoa River. A few years ago, we did a watershed management plan. This is in conjunction. These are the projects that are coming out of that. So we already have a fund set up for that. This amends that fund to reflect that we've received a grant for $60,000 or the $60,000 grant to do some of these improvements. Our match is $40,000. In the fund already exists a $5,000 Pigeon River grant and $15,000 of funds left over from the previous from the project fund initially. So what we're looking to do, we have what that results in is $100,000 to make improvements at the golf course, not the stream bank restoration, that's separate from this. They overlap a little bit, but one of the projects is at the golf course in the parking lot area, a project at the library, and a pilot project on Church Street to begin improvements there where we have water quality and stormwater runoff issues, to begin making some improvements along that street. That'll take some more time over the years, but those are the three projects that we'd like to get started with that. And this, like I said, the project fund has already been set up, but we'd like to amend it to reflect the grant that we've received and the funding that we then need to put towards that.
Do I have a motion to approve the capital project ordinance amendment?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 4-0. All right, B, capital amendment for capital project 018-01. Matt?
Okay, so that goes with this project. That is the budget amendment to move funding out of the general fund into the capital project fund. So we budgeted this in this fiscal year $40,000 because that was the amount that we had anticipated for our match for the grant. But because of the Pigeon River Fund funding of $5,000 and some leftover funding from that was left in the project fund previously of $15,000, we're only doing a budget amendment of $20,000 to move the $20,000 of the general fund into the capital project fund. Like I said, we budgeted 40. We're going to move 20 out of the general fund into the capital project fund so that we can move forward with the projects that I just mentioned.
Do I have a motion to approve budget amendment FY 21807 as submitted?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved 4-0. Okay, resolution for town's intent and desire to accept the offer on Hemp Hill property. Matt?
Yeah, I'll do this, and Ron will help me if I get stuck. But this, with the Hemp Hill estate, some of Mary Hemp Hill's property was set aside with the Land Conservancy that can only be used as a public park. This is right across from Tractor Supply, kind of back up under the interstate on that side of on the other side of the highway. There's about 26 acres that are there. So this is a resolution acknowledging our intent to develop that property as a town park, and not to develop it in any other way. It also acknowledges that there's 1.7 acres that are non-contiguous with that piece of property. They're a little further south, and we don't have any access to that piece. And so it acknowledges that we're not interested particularly in that 1.7 acres, but we are interested in the 25, I think it's around 25 acres, in there, like maybe 27 acres.
25 3/4.
Yeah, so the 25 acres, we are interested in that, and we've had some discussions about some uses for that property as we move forward. So this resolution then kind of expresses our interest with the Conservancy and I guess the estate too, so that they are aware that we want to move forward with this. Is that fair?
The estate's interested, the Conservancy's interested. They have to accept this. The will doesn't leave it to them and walk away. The will leaves it to the Conservancy on the condition to be used as a park. And the Conservancy needs their commitment to develop it as a park before they tell the estate we'll take it. The 1.7 acres we can't utilize, and so the Conservancy will simply say to the estate, we turn that one down. That frees up at least a little piece of property they can dispose of by other means. As I've informed the board before, the estate isn't as flush with cash as Mary had hoped it would be, and they're hoping that 1.7 generate a few dollars to deal with some of their other obligations.
I have a motion to adopt Resolution R-18-04 as submitted.
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 4-0. We have no public hearings. We have communication from the staff. Mr. Sneed.
I do have one update for the board on the Watson case that seems to have gone on forever. The judge said this week he will issue his judgment on that. We will know within a day or two, depending on his schedule, of course, the final judgment on that. Well, let's say we will have the judgment. Final is another word.
All right, Matt. And if you will, Matt, could you tell us also what the town is currently doing as far as allowing horses in this town?
Sure. We allow horses in a variety of zoning jurisdictions. We have 12 zoning jurisdictions. 9 of them allow horses and grazing animals. 3 of them do not. Central business, UR8, and neighborhood mixed use. So UR8 is one of our larger areas. Of course, it's the area where everybody lives. It's the area around town, and running back this way up Montreat Road, and kind of spreading out around North Fork in that area. And those and so that area does not allow grazing animals. Neighborhood mixed use does not allow it, and central business does not allow it. The other districts already allow grazing animals. The planning board did take a look at. Jessica had brought them some information, the kind of information that was presented tonight, and to look at it. And I think the sense there was if you were trying to preserve open space, there may be other ways to look at that. We do a variety of things now. They may not be sufficient, but we require in major subdivisions and planned unit development and traditional neighborhood designs, we require already a set aside for open space. We already have a district for a conservation residential district that allows you to preserve areas that couldn't be, to allow you to develop while preserving areas that probably couldn't be developed anyway, steep slope issues or water quality issues, other issues that may come up, and it does allow you to develop with those restraints in mind, so that you preserve those when you have developments. We have conservation subdivisions, which allow us to be a little more flexible with preserving open space within those subdivisions. So we do have, and we have a couple other tools in our toolbox for how we protect open space. If that is a concern, and I know that it is, I know there's a balance between open space and the demand for development and the demand for affordable housing. All these pieces fit, they don't always fit together nicely, but we do have tools in our toolbox for how we address preserving open space and conserving green spaces as far as we can. And I think the consensus of the planning board at the time was that any changes in terms of grazing animals probably was not going to either, if that was the purpose, was open space, it may not effectively serve that purpose. And like I said, we already have 9 of our 12 districts already allow grazing animals. So the Blue Ridge Road area already has that allowance, and there are restrictions, obviously, for how how we accomplish that, but those districts already accommodate that, and so our dense residential districts and the central business district do not or have not in the past been seen as something that would accommodate that sort of development, and that's why we didn't move forward with that previously. And the only thing that I'm sorry, I'll answer the about it. I did want to, just so I don't forget, I did want to remind the board that we did receive a letter today from the Local Government Commission approving our financing for the purchase of the foam and fabric building. So we're going to be able to move forward with that, and we'll work with BB&T and set a closing date and move that project forward too.
Okay.
Could you briefly make a comment about the design center meeting that was commented on in citizen comments?
Yes, that was a meeting that was held with stakeholders. I think Julie's right. It was last Friday, right? It was last Friday afternoon.
Stakeholders would be
The town, the board members from the daycare, the Greenway. Julie was there, I think, representing kind of the Greenway Commission, the community garden, our representative from there. The disc golf had a representative there. I'm trying to think if there were other. The Recreation Commission was there. A representative from JMT who does our traffic engineering was there. The fire department had Steve Jones was there. So that's who met to start to get input, so that they could kind of begin the process of filtering that information into a cohesive unit and to develop a master plan. See, the idea out there is that there will be a master plan. The original idea was there was going to be a master plan for the community garden, and then this project also came along. So they're trying to piece these two together into a comprehensive master plan that takes the whole site into account, and that's really what the start. That's what the start is. This is not. We're not.
It's just the beginning of the process.
I think I think there's still a lot of work to be done.
Good. So, and then one other thing. Do I not recall hearing somewhere that the funds to pay for the study, the design center, that some of those funds are coming from monies raised by the daycare to
some of them
are
from the Greenway Foundation because that's where the original portion of that came from.
That's sort of the point I'm trying to make is that the Greenway Commission is paying for some of it with funds you've raised.
The Greenway the private foundation. Not the Greenway Commission. No, you're not Julie.
You're not doing it. The foundation is paying for some of it, but then the other part, there are some other funds coming from different places. So
the daycare.
I did think it's important for the public to understand that took place because it should be that way. That's a bifurcation of.
And to echo what Julie said, I think the design group, the Asheville Design, or is that what they call it, Asheville Design Group?
They're called the Asheville Design Center.
The Asheville Design Center. So I think they really do want to reach out. You all will hear from them, and the public will hear from them, and I think they want to get as much information as they can to make recommendations and to bring them back and then tweak them as they go forward, so that there is buy-in for whatever recommendations come. The goal of this process is not a top-down approach that says here's what's going to happen. It's a collaborative approach.
Correct. Thank you. That's all. And I also I don't know if anybody wanted to, Chief Freeman or somebody wanted to make comment about the new.
Yeah, Chief. Well,
here they are.
Right. Chief, tell them what you got here.
So basically, we're just trying to modernize our patch, and we kind of wanted to take and keep a little bit of the history, which is the round patch, and so our detective Chris Kuhn, he come up with a really nice design to modernize our patch.
There it is.
Proud of it. Looks good.
All righty, communication from the board.
I would like to make a statement about the Martin Luther King breakfast Saturday morning. I don't know if any of you were there. I think, from my perspective, I think it's the most outstanding one that I have been to. And I think what made it more outstanding was our speaker, who was George Logan, who is a local product. He did an awesome job. And I found out that Black Mountain Digital Media, which is Mr. Biggers, who records our sessions, he was there. So, and he's going to have it available, you think, in about a week? You'll be able to see it and hear it from our website. Is that right? It can link in.
Could you link it to this video? Can you link it into their meeting, like after the meeting? Attach it to that way also?
Could, yeah.
So they would have access to it on video at the library?
Mm-hmm.
So you think, what, in about a week?
Yep.
I think you said that.
About a
would-
week.
But if you have a chance, believe me, it is well worth listening to. It was, I think, so relevant to everything going on around us today. So I hope you will take time to hear it. In fact, I think I'll even hear it again.
Yeah. I second that, Maggie.
Yeah, great.
And I put my 2 cents into it. It's the best one I've ever been
Yeah.
to. Any other board members?
Please, Mr. Mayor, I just want to give a brief update. At our January MPO meeting, the MPO board voted to approve the grant funding for the downtown parking study for the town. So we are grateful to have that and to get underway with that. I also have just wanted to make people aware, there's been some questions about what's going on as far as at Blue Ridge Road down at the interchange. Certainly Eric has given us an update of that. And people wanting to make suggestions for the interchange itself, a separate project than the one that we talked about earlier. I did have the opportunity to speak with Cole Hood, who's the project engineer at DOT. They are just at the very early steps of this project of doing site review, and there is no design as of yet. The DOT process, for whatever faults it may have, the process is for them to create a design or multiple designs in this case, and then to bring them to the community for our input. So the input comes after they have the design in place. There have been some questions to that, so I wanted to get that out. So if you see people out doing survey work, that's what's going on with that. And lastly, Matt, I wanted to thank you for the update on the open space and for the hard work that the planning board's doing. For everyone that came to speak about open space and the grazing animals, thank you for taking the time to do that. It's definitely preserving open space in this town is definitely a challenge and something that we have to do. And we are working to do that, but we do have a process that these come up from the planning board. They're evaluated there, they make recommendations, and then we debate them, and we can send it back for further study. We can make alterations here at the board, but it would be inappropriate for us to dictate down to them as to what should be done. So, and it would also be disrespectful of them taking their time and their service to do it. So that is the process. I know there's been confusion as to that. Lastly, I just want to thank the board members here for their support of the resolution for the daycare. Again, we're at the very beginning steps of that, but as recent events that you've seen in the Citizen Times as far as daycare closures in West Asheville and the need, there is a need in this region, in our county, in our town for daycare facilities. I think that by giving this resolution and allowing them to apply for their grant funding, we're providing an opportunity for future success at expanding this project and educating children and giving them opportunities. I think that's certainly a good thing. That's one of the core things that we should do. So I wanted to thank you all for your support of that again tonight.
Anyone else? I do want to mention that we have a swearing in right after the close of this meeting. We're going to be swearing in Black Mountain's newest police officer. And if I may, I'd love to get out of here as quick as anybody, but I'd like to give you just a quick little history lesson of the town of Black Mountain since I've lived here. Y'all know where the new Hampton Inn is going in. That used to have cows. It used to be a farm. Montreat College, where the recreation facilities are, that used to be a hayfield. White's Insurance used to be a pasture. Cheshire Fitness Center used to be a pasture. Jacobs Cottages used to be a pasture. The Settings, Loma Vista, which Doug Brock was a developer on, used to be a pasture. Sweet Birch, which is the last one that seems to be getting a lot of the comments of bringing the horses back, used to be a pasture. I mention all those because I was the last one to use all those pieces of property. I am extremely aware. I'm also extremely aware that when people own a piece of property and it's zoned and they get to a retirement age or the family wants to sell it, they have a right to be able to do that. Now, those are just the ones that I was the last one on. Highland Farms, that was the old Wheeler and White Farms. It used to be a pig farm, horses, cows. 9 South used to be the cows were there. Forest Hills Development, Charlotte, right there across from you, was the most beautiful farm that there is or was in this town. Tudor Croft, Robert's Quarter Horses. I stood a stallion up there with those guys, and I'm very familiar with the folks that had the farm up there. Meadowbrook Apartments used to be a big hayfield, and it's no longer a hayfield. Cheshire used to be the old Ager farm, the descendants of the John Ager. And Tennis Camp, the folks out there bought that, and it became into the village of Cheshire. The Meadowbrook development up from there used to be a big farm. I went to it. It took my tent up there and spent the night with my first cousin, many a night. And then you think about all the developments that's been going on. You've got crossing railroad tracks, and that's where I was raised up, on the wrong side of the tracks here in this town, so to speak. You've got Bilo's, Ingalls, the Shell Station, Ingalls Gas Station, the BP Station, Denny's, Wendy's, McDonald's, Timber Park, Hunting Lodge Acres. None of those were there when I was a kid and I was growing up. Things are not that fast-paced, but things are steady, just like it is anywhere else in this nation. Things continue to march on. Development continues to march on as long as there's people who are needing and wanting to move to this kind of community, a community that's got excellent, friendly folks, a wonderful climate, great recreation, great things to do, and you're not going to stop it and shut the door and say, us four and no more. It's going to continue. And we've always been a welcoming town and community, and we always will be. As far as the horses are concerned, guys, there's nobody been affected by losing pasture land than nobody more than Don Collins. And I'm not upset or mad one iota. Those folks have been good to me. They've allowed me to use that property, and when they got time that they wanted to sell that property, they had every right to do it. And the way it's zoned, you can't bring back the horses unless you own the land and the horses. And as far as folks wanting horses in their back doors or their cows and things like that, I can assure you that that's not the case. Not everybody's that way. I've had complaints filed against me because I widened or put a flat piece of ground and turned it into a riding ring. And one of the neighbors filed a complaint against me here at the town. I've had complaints filed against me about pastures being too high. And thank the good Lord, Matt and Josh and some of those, they readjusted that ordinance to say if it's a pasture land that or something that was used for agricultural use did not fall into the ruling that it had to be so short. Because, to be quite honest with you, that's silly. It was just an oversight. I'm sure the planning board wasn't thinking about pasture or hayfields. There'd be no way you could ever cut a hayfield in this town if you couldn't let it be over 12 inches high. I guess what I'm saying is, guys, we've only got just a few more places that are left. Those folks own that property. They pay taxes on it all their life. I've got some of those pieces of parcels, and I own them, and I've been paying taxes. And you have to understand that as time marches on, Black Mountain is not the same place it was 40 years ago. And I thank Matt, the town staff. I'm like Matt. I respect Ryan. I respect what the citizen boards in this town do. They work extremely hard to give us the zoning rules and regulations, and then the town board looks at it and they vote on it appropriately. And I think they do a heck of a job. And I'm going to respect those guys and the job that they do on any of our citizen boards. And that's about all I've got to say. Anything else from any of the board members? With that, meeting adjourned.